when I got pregnant with Harrison, that was, oh my gosh, that's like almost 3 years ago now. That's crazy. He turns 2 in September. Also crazy, mind blown. It just goes by too fast. Anyways, when I got pregnant with him, we were so excited. Brian and I were so excited that we were going to be adding to our family. I had already been through pregnancy, and I kind of thought that I would know what was coming. However, I was not prepared for how different my second pregnancy would be to my first pregnancy. So these are 8 ways that my first pregnancy was different than my second pregnancy. So the first one is your cravings can be totally different. With Delilah, I had really not craved anything. I had some aversions, like in the early days, I wasn't really into like raw meat, especially handling it. Of course, I wouldn't eat raw meat, but I wasn't really interested in being around raw meat, and even being around meat kind of in general was just kind of ooh for me. But I really didn't have any cravings with her. But with Harrison, oh my gosh, I wanted spicy food all day long. All day long. Like that is just something that I really craved with him. And then I also had a really big sweet tooth with him. So I was really surprised that my cravings were so different with each pregnancy. I also had like no sickness with Delilah, like none at all. I can remember a couple of days where I think I was maybe vomiting in the early days, but really other than that, it was super mild and like nothing happened. With Harrison, I was sick with that kid so much. It was ridiculous. I was sick like my entire first trimester, and I got a little bit of a break in my second trimester. And then like late in my third trimester, the sickness was back again. I was barfing if I wasn't eating. It was horrible. So I was really surprised that both my sickness and my cravings were so different with each of my kids. So another thing that was different for me with my first pregnancy and my second pregnancy is that during my second pregnancy, people didn't really give me very much advice. When I first had Delilah, like the advice was coming out of the woodwork. Like people had so many opinions on so many things, but I think, I don't know what it is really, but maybe people see that you already have a child and they're like, well, she's got this. Although I really was looking for people to give me advice, especially about raising a boy child, because my second was a boy and I hadn't had a boy, and I don't know, I was comfortable raising a girl. I kind of knew what to expect. I am a girl, so I didn't really know what was coming with a boy. And I didn't get very much advice in that department unless I asked for it. The next way that my second pregnancy was different than my first one was people love to talk about the age gap between them. Like they don't really give you advice on like which diapers to choose, or I don't know, like the other pregnancy stuff. But people love to comment on how far apart your kids are. And if you know my story, my kids are 8 years apart, and that was 100% intentional. 100% intentional. So a little backstory, I am a professional, I'm a teacher, and it took me a while to actually get into my career. There was kind of like a dip in the market for teachers, and I was subbing for a while, and then I did like a long-term substitute gig, and it was just kind of like, I don't know, I didn't feel like it was the right time for us to have kids. But once I finally got into a career and got into a great position and, had maternity leave available to me, I felt like, okay, now is a good time. But people had so many comments about the age gap. They're like, your kids are never gonna be friends. They asked about if our age gap was intentional, which I think is kind of a personal question if you ask me, but that's just me. I don't know, I feel like people had a lot of opinions about how far apart our kids were. I also get like really defensive remarks from especially other moms. Like it's as if my choice to have my kids far apart is somehow like telling them that when they had their kids close together that they like did something wrong. I don't know, it's kind of weird. They get like defensive and they're like, well, my kids are really close together and they're gonna be best friends. It's like, okay. It was a really weird thing that I experienced during my second pregnancy. And of course, that's not to say that everyone who has their kids close together like came at me in a defensive mode. It was just a select few people. So that's something that I went through during my second pregnancy as well. So your life won't necessarily be centered around books and classes. I know a lot of first-time moms who do a lot of reading and research because honestly, like you don't really know what is coming at you until you have that kid. I did do a little bit of research because I was going a little bit more, I don't know, natural, I guess, with Harrison. So I wanted to prepare in that way, but I didn't read books about like, you know, what to expect when you're expecting because kind of already knew what was coming, so I didn't really do research in that way. I more researched like which hospitals have the best midwife options. Do I want a birth center? Do I want to do hypnobirthing, or do I want to do the Bradley method? Those kind of things. So that was the research that I did and wasn't really so focused on like what is coming. You might worry more in your second pregnancy. That's something that I went through during the pregnancy with my second child. I actually went through 2 miscarriages before that, and I will go ahead and link some of my videos about my miscarriage story down below if you're interested in that. But I definitely worried more when I was pregnant with Harrison. I worried that something was gonna happen. I had all this knowledge about how pregnancy worked, and I knew what could go right and I knew what can go wrong. It's one of those things. I worried a lot more about my pregnancy with my second child than with my first. I also knew like how difficult pregnancy could be. I've seen a lot of women get really, really sick with like hypermesis. I've also seen a lot of really sick babies in the NICU. My daughter was a NICU baby, and I just knew that a lot of complications could come with pregnancy in general. So I don't know, I definitely worried more that I was gonna experience those things, or that maybe I would have another loss or something. There's just a lot more like anxiety during my second pregnancy. So in my second pregnancy, I feel like the attention, I guess, that I got was different from others. Like when you're a first time mom, like you kind of get like showered in attention by, I don't know, maybe even your own family, that kind of thing. I definitely got attention from my family. My family is one of those families that loves babies. They love pregnant ladies. It's just one of those things. But I also had a couple of my family members who were first time pregnant moms, and I just feel like the attention that we got was different. And it's not to say that it was a good thing or a bad thing. It's just something that I noticed being a second time pregnant mom versus being a first time pregnant mom. So that's just something that I noticed that was different in my second pregnancy. And then the last way that my second pregnancy was really different from my first one is that people were super interested in what gender I was having. I already had a daughter, and so people had like big opinions about if I had another girl or if I had a boy. Like a lot of people were like, don't you want a boy so you have one of each? And personally, I didn't really care. My husband was really into having a boy, but that's just probably because he wanted a boy. But yeah, people just had like really big opinions about which gender child I was gonna have in my second pregnancy. Like in your first one, I don't think people are really super interested in it because it's a 50-50 chance and you're gonna start with either one or the other. But when you're in your second pregnancy, people have these opinions about gender, you know, based on your first child. So those are the ways that my second pregnancy was a lot different than my first one. If you are a mom of more than one kid, go ahead and leave how your second or subsequent pregnancies were different. I've not had more than 2, so maybe it's even different for your 3rd, 4th, 5th, and so on. So go ahead and leave your stories down in the comments below if you're comfortable with that. If you are one of my current subscribers, thank you so much for being here. I couldn't do what I do without you. If you're new, go ahead and hit that red subscribe button below. I would love to have you joining our community. It's a great place to be. And if you want to connect with me outside of YouTube, I'm on the Twitter. I have a Facebook like page. I also have Instagram, so feel free to find me there. I love connecting with you guys there, and you'll get to see stuff that you won't see necessarily on YouTube. And by the way, you guys, have fun today.